on, team? So we're going to continue our core discussion by talking about breathing, and then some of the drills are going to help us learn how to breathe effectively, and use that diaphragmatic breathing that I talked about in the lecture video. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. It's a really important one because to have a really good understanding of why we need to breathe and breathe well, and some of the things that go into play, it's good to know the musculature and the action that's involved with breathing. So again, if you haven't seen that core lecture video, the breathing lecture video, then go check that out. But today we're going to go through a couple of drills that are going to help you learn how to breathe and learn how to implement effective breathing, and then how that all is going to translate to some drills that breathing is very important, but I'm not trying to isolate the breathing, like a squat, like a deadlift, those types of things that are bigger compound moves where injury is a higher risk, but we can eliminate that risk almost to zero if we breathe well and we brace well. So I'm going to start off in a dying bug. Now, of course, I've talked a lot about these dying bugs and these forearm bridges being really important drills that I use to teach effective core training and also effective breathing. So the reason I really like the dying bug for teaching breathing is because it gives you a lot of feedback, right? The ground is very effective at telling me whether or not I'm breathing and bracing effectively. So in order to try to learn how to breathe in this position, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into my dying bug and I'm going to hold here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my hands, put it on my stomach, while I'm still pressing my lower back into the ground. If you can remember from the last core training video, the dying bug, we're trying to press our lower back against the ground to really try to engage those abdominals. So I'm going to put my hand on my stomach and I'm going to breathe in, and as I breathe in, I'm going to try to push my hand up with my stomach and my breath. So I'm going to breathe in, and you see how my hand rises there. And then as I breathe out, I'm going to do the opposite. So I'm going to try to push my hand down. So I'm going to breathe in, push my hand up, and then breathe out, then let my hand sink. And what you'll notice when you breathe out and breathe out hard, I should be able to hear you breathe, is your abdominals gauge just a little bit more. Right, so I'm going to do that again. I'm going to breathe in, push my hand up, and then breathe out, push my hand down. Now, if I was breathing ineffectively, what's going to happen is that my chest is going to raise and fall. So I'm going to be here, breathing into my chest, and then out. And there, I did not feel as much work in my abdominals. Now, I'm holding this dying bug position. What I'm going to do to actually do the dying bug drill with my breathing procedure that I just went through is as I reach down towards the ground with my arm and my leg, I'm also going to breathe in, and then as I reach back up, I'm going to breathe out. So right here, I'm going to breathe in, keep holding this stomach, press my low back, and then breathe out, and then find neutral again. And do the other side, breathe in, breathe right into that stomach, breathe out. And then what I'll be able to feel is a little more control in that lower spine, keeping it against the ground, and then as I come up, pressing it even further against the ground. So now if I'm feeling a lot of work in my abdominals and I'm putting myself in positions where it's really easy to hold my lower back against the ground in that dying bug position, then I'm probably bracing really, really well, and I'm keeping myself in neutrality of my lumbar spine. The next drill is going to be a forearm bridge rollout, where I'm going to teach you how to breathe in that position to hold a neutral spine where we don't have that feedback anymore from the ground. So here I have my stability ball, and I'm going to be in a kneeling position. It's always easier to start these, even if you're very, very good at bridging, it's always better to start these moves when you're trying to learn a new concept in a regressed version of the drill. So a kneeling version of the drill versus being on my feet is going to be a little easier to understand these concepts than it would be if I just went all out, did a deadlift and then tried to learn breathing and bracing that way. So I'm going to be in my forearm bridge here. Now what I'm going to do is I don't want to be up in like this quadruped sort of square position. I want to try to push my hips towards the ball without letting my low back sink like this. So I'm going to be up and I'm going to find neutral with my pelvis. And then I'm going to try to extend my thoracic spine. So I'm an extension of my thoracic spine, I'm neutral in my lower spine, and then to implement the breathing properly, what I'm going to do is as I reach my arms out, I'm going to breathe in. As I pull them back in, I'm going to breathe out. So here, I'm breathing in, and then out, and then I can feel those abdominals contract even further as I breathe out. So I'm breathing in, and then out, and the whole time I'm trying to breathe into my stomach and out through my stomach, just like we were doing in that dying bug. So one more time, and then out. And then as I get a little more advanced at the breathing, I can now get onto my feet, find neutral, hold this position, reach out, and then breathe out. Now, how does this apply to the rest of the lifts? How does it even apply to some of the more powerful stuff like jumps, bounds, sprinting, all that sort of thing? And now, I'm only going to talk today about the squat, but I also want you to know that this also applies to the rest of our lifts as well. And then we're going to talk about how it applies to power work later. So just think about all the lifts: pushing, pulling, pull-ups, bench press, squat, deadlift, all of these things that we know so well, and trying to apply the same concepts that I talked today about the squat with those things as well. So we always want to breathe in on whatever the eccentric or the negative portion of the lift is, and then we always want to breathe out on the concentric portion. This is usually the portion where we're pushing up, pulling in, or when we go down and up in a squat, this is my eccentric, and then this is my concentric motion, right? So breathing in on the eccentric, breathing out on that concentric when we're actually applying force into the ground or into the barbell or whatever it is. So I'm going to grab my barbell here, and I'm going to demonstrate a front squat. Again, on my way down in that negative, that is when I'm going to try to breathe in, hold my abdominals, and then as I come up, I'm going to breathe out, squeeze my abs, and then come back up. So right here, I'm setting my feet up in a good front squat position, elbows are high. Right now, I'm using my abdominals, breathing in, squeezing my abdominals, holding here, and then coming down, and then breathing out hard, and then coming back up, squeezing my knees and my glutes, but also squeezing my abdominals. If I do this properly, I should almost feel as much work happening in my core as everything else. So I'm going to do it again. Breathe in, descend, breathe out hard, and then breathe out right through my stomach. So guys, that was Breathing 101. If you guys have any more questions, make sure to reach out by email, go to my website, or you can reach me on Instagram. Instagram is at John Williams Training or at Tiny Whiteboard Workouts if you want to check those out. And make sure you go back and see that lecture video on breathing as well. That should really help. Get your breathing right, get your bracing right.